us. So if you hear background,
Oh, we're
let
live.
me know.
I see. Okay. So, Steph, you want to introduce the podcast?
We live.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we
Hello,
can.
everyone, and welcome back to Let's Talk About It, Steph. This is your girl, Steph. I'm on here tonight, and tonight we're going to be turning things a little bit different. I have two of our leaders on here, Bishop Jeanette and Dr. Patrick Moses is on here, along with my co-host. So we're going to be talking a little bit about the state of the church tonight. So y'all, go ahead, go get your tea, come back, sit down, and we're going to bring these two up here and let them have a conversation with us that we all need to hear, because I know we're all going through the same thing and wondering, how do we deal with this spiritually, and what's the state of the church right now? So I'm gonna bring them on up. Y'all welcome the bishop and Dr. Moses.
Bless you. Bless you. Greetings, Dr. Moses. How are you, sir?
Hey, Bishop, Senator, how are you, sir?
Well, doing well, doing well.
Likewise.
Okay. Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm
can
just
you
excited to be here
mute
tonight.
me?
No, I'm just excited to be here tonight. Uh, can you all hear me?
Yes.
All right, outstanding. Yeah, the commissioner, my commissioner in Waden, thank you so much for what you are doing. And I'm just excited that in the conversation, you started off by saying we're in these end times and that we are looking at the book of Revelation. I'm so glad you talked about the book of Revelation. If you look, when you get a chance, we'd like for all of you to take a chance, and this is really the state of the church. This is indeed the state of the body politic. And I want to tell you, I come to this conversation twofold. One, as a person of the minister of the gospel, that I have a responsibility to lead people to my Savior, soul salvation. But over and against that, as I embrace my belief in God, that anything that is counter to the work of God is a sin, and so I have to focus on social salvation. But I want all of you, regardless of your faith tradition, when you get a chance, go look at Revelation chapter 2. Revelation chapter 2, John the seer is on the island of Patmos, and he's talking about this church at Smyrna. And when I was a little boy at Bishop, I took a course called mathematics. And there's a concept in mathematics called the order of operation. And it says that your work was inside the parenthesis first. When you look at Revelation, and John is talking about that church at Smyrna, he talks about them being, in poverty, them going through suffering, persecution, and all of that stuff. But on the inside, it says, but you are rich. And so what I want to suggest is that the church is rich in the power of our God. That when we come together, we can push back all the MAGA, we can push back all of the Christian nationalism, we can push back all of the acts of oppression when folks start understanding the historic mission of these churches born in the history of chattel slavery. Hey, that's all I want to talk about tonight.
It's amazing that you order of operation, because I use that same analogy. The please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. The parentheses, the exponents, the multiplication, the division, the addition, and the subtraction. And that is exactly it. We got to deal with what's in the parentheses first.
That's right.
And I think we don't understand God's math order. God's math order, he will subtract before he adds.
That's
He
right.
will divide before he multiplies.
That's
And
right.
because he's God, he doesn't have to check his work like we have to check our work. But
Right.
this is why we were taught to write out those steps, and so that we could go back to see where we made an error. And if I think a lot of, I think if the church would go back and look at where we've come from, our traditional stands and operations in creation, if we would see where we've kind of gotten off course, we will see kind of where we've gotten off task, and we will see not so much as a separation between church and government, but we
Right.
can see where we have become political. In
Right.
other words, we've become issue driven, and
Right.
we've become, instead of becoming people driven, we've become party driven, or we've become denomination driven, or we've become title driven, beyond what we should be. And so because of that, now we're in this state that we're in, and it's so much as a don't do what I do, but do as I tell you to do. But
Mhm.
we, as being a, having been a child of a pastor and being a child, we know that children are going to do what they see
Right.
and not what they hear.
Absolutely.
And the saints, the sheep of the church, they're going to do and see what they see their leaders doing, not what they hear their leaders saying. And so
Mhm.
I think it's very imperative, is very imperative in this day and time.
Absolutely. And Bishop, I would suggest that too often in the church, and I'm talking now about the 21st century church, that we as leaders of the church have become so pastoral driven and
Yes,
less prophetic driven. Pastoral, we're focused on building the great cathedrals
yes,
inside of the congregation. And prophetic means that we're focused on the community. You are so on point. When we, as the leaders, understand not only our historic function, but our contemporary responsibilities, then we can lead the people out of all this wilderness that we find ourselves in.
absolutely.
Yes, sir. Mhm.
This is something that I really struggle with my family because a lot of my family members, when I say the words Christian nationalism, they hear the word Christian and they hear the separate word nationalism. And a lot of my family members don't seem to understand that it's a compound word. And I struggle sometimes because when I talk to my family members, they say, "Well, what's wrong with being a Christian nationalist?" Because they think that they're just being a Christian and things like that. But it's difficult for me to explain because sometimes I'm not quite sure if you guys are familiar with NAR, the New Apostolic Reformation, or the
Mhm.
Seven Mountain Mandate theology. When I go into details like that, then they finally understand. But
Mhm.
I sometimes wonder, is it a bad idea to use the word Christian nationalism with phrasing? Since I have seen even politicians like Marjorie Taylor Greene was saying, "What's wrong with Christian nationalism? What's wrong with me being a Christian, and what's wrong with me loving my country?" Is this a near direct quote of what she would say? And I know a lot of people have like fallen into that little trick. How do you two believe we should communicate um, our language when we talk about Christian nationalism?
So, if you, Bishop, if you don't mind, I would tell you from where I sit and my read of the Word of God. And if indeed I am, you are, and all of us, and I do believe we are, created in the very image of God, this Imago Dei, that means that all of us are part of the family. And from my religious view as a Christian, now you go to Acts, you discover that that's the nickname given to those following after the way. But if I am to follow this Christian identity, meaning that I believe in the resurrection of Jesus Christ, regardless of my denominational tag, I'm a Christian. Here's the problem, and it's a problem of heresy. It is a problem of heresy. Nationalism is counter to the word of God. Go over to Luke, that Jesus is saying, I come to liberate people. And so if I am the same, if I am to suggest that in order for one to be a Christian, one has to follow a MAGA agenda, i.e., a conservative, a Republican viewpoint. Nowhere in the text I read do I find that as accurate. But when you have the bullhorn and you have everyone drinking from the same water fountain, from the silo of the indoctrination of Fox News, and got everyone believing a certain that if you are to run outside of being a Republican, then you are the Antichrist. All of that is totally counter to the word of God. Therefore, it is heresy. So, from where I sit and my understanding of the Christian scripture, Christian nationalism is not Christianity. It is a cult among itself that worships an idol. It is idol worship. Everything that's counter to the word of God. So that's how I deal with Christian nationalism.
Absolutely, absolutely. Powerful words. Bishop, how would you define Christian nationalism, and how would you go about communicating about what it is and how you feel about it?
My my ideology to it is, I'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. And it says that we are one nation under God. Then it says that we are indivisible, which means that we're undividable. So I'm not, I'm not as much a nationalist because of what I say and do, but I am now a nationalist because of what I'm represent. So I don't have to just be a Christian in America to represent God. I represent Him wherever I go. So to add to Christian nationalism, it's kind of I would say, a masking of an agenda that they're trying to secretly push, but we have to find a way to get everybody here. So we gotta trick the kid with candy to get him to come in. We gotta sweeten up the deal to get him to back it up. And once we get them to back it up, now we can start pushing what we really want to push. And that is, to me, that's Christian nationalism. It's not so much as Christians from this nation or so forth or so on, but I think it's trying to rear its head and become a movement with an agenda.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Let me
Mhm.
ask you this, because I hear the following a lot. I hear some people say that this is a Christian nation, or this is a Christian country, and I also sometimes hear someone says that or gets challenged about that. They say, "Well, define a Christian nation." So, I what is your stance on that, Dr. Patrick Moses? When someone says that this is a Christian nation, what is your response to that?
Propaganda. I am a Christian. My mother, who raised me, was a Christian, and that's why I'm a Christian. And my mother was a Christian. Therefore, my mother was a Christian. So I'm a Christian because of that. I am not a Christian because I live in this nation. America is not a Christian nation. America is no different than any other country with a group of people with their own unique, as the bishop said, indivisible, with their own unique religious views, and some without religious views. So if we were a Christian nation, contrary to what So one of the problems in America was when we started allowing politicians to invade the public education bodies, school boards, and what have you, and start eliminating a very important course called civics. And so now you got people thinking that you have to be a Christian to run for an office. And guess what? That's not in that Constitution that we have. So we have people walking around about the Bible and got folk walking around with the Constitution. And those people who want to tell you about what's in the Constitution, they haven't read it. Those people want to tell you what's in the Bible, they haven't read it. So what I'm trying to suggest is that we are a nation, but we are not a Christian nation. If we were a Christian nation, I'm about to go very, very historic now and go back to the 1600, Jamestown, when the slave ships came, the Amazing Grace. If we were a Christian nation, we wouldn't have kidnapped enslaved people and brought them to this country. If we were a Christian nation, we wouldn't have taught the enslaved African that they are not part of the Mao Day. If we were a Christian nation, we would not have endured years of chattel slavery. If we were a Christian nation, we wouldn't be doing what we're doing right now to tear apart families from each other on the American borders, if we were indeed a Christian nation. Because Christianity, from where I sit, tells me that I am to look out for the least, the lost, left out. What am I talking about? I'm talking about, the widow. I'm talking about, so we look at Social Security benefits. I'm talking about the orphan, that SNAP. I'm talking about the resident alien. If we were a Christian nation, the things that we're doing right now, we wouldn't be doing. So all those folks who want to tell you they're a Christian nation, I would tell you to tell them, go back to high school and ask their guidance counselor for a course called civics, and they will know the difference. And then let the church or their mosque or their synagogue teach them their religious viewpoints.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Bishop, what would you say to someone who says that this is a Christian nation?
Under the premise, when they say Christian nation, again, it's an umbrella, compound statement or word. What I believe that they're saying by this being a Christian nation is that Christian is the uh, most accepted religion or the most accepted following. But if indeed we were a Christian nation, uh, we wouldn't be so free to allow no disrespect to Muslims, to Buddhists, to whatever it is. But we are accepting of everyone, and we are accepting of every type of religion. Like there are places in China where Christianity is banned,
Mm-hmm.
but that doesn't mean that there are no Christians in China.
That's right.
But that doesn't make them a Christian nation. Uh, we are under again the moniker of a Christian nation, which means that is that is to me that's a Visa or a Mastercard. It's only accepted in certain places. You know what I mean? It's like a credit calling card when I say I'm from a Christian nation, because absolutely we would function and operate differently if we were a true Christian nation.
Absolutely, absolutely. I know this. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with this or not, but in Texas, there's been some debated laws that are being pushed forward. I believe it actually has been pushed forward and signed by the governor. Public schools are being told to display the Ten Commandments in the classrooms. And this has kind of been a little bit pretentious in Texas because many people say that this violates the Constitution. I believe it's the first sentence of the First Amendment is the Establishment Clause. How do you feel about government pushing the Ten Commandments into public schools?
Hey, I heard I'm dominating the conversation by going first, but I think I heard I got on last. I think I heard the bishop talking about Louisiana, and I think my commissioner in waiting talked about Louisiana, and I'm from Louisiana. I'm from Louisiana, and it's interesting. My state. Passed this bill for all the schools to have Ten Commandments in their classrooms, and the same foolishness going on here. But what's really interesting to me, and this is really, really interesting to me, second time I say it, I'm going to say a third time, it is really interesting to me that those same schools, those same states that believe, ironically, in state rights when it came to civil rights and voting rights and women rights, those same states now who think that they ought to be able to do what they want at the local level, contrary to their views of nationalism or federalism. Federalism it is. To your point of the publishing of the Ten Commandments, it's the craziest thing I've heard in my life because those same schools that are uh, starving the students their ability to read and write. The purpose of public education is to prepare girls and boys to be able to read, write, mathematics, things of that nature. It is not their indoctrination or socializing on a said political viewpoint. The Ten Commandments is part of the Christian ethos, if you will. No disrespect to my Jewish sisters and brothers. It's part of our ethos, if you will. That has nothing to do with teaching Johnny how to count to four and Mary how to spell her name. The Ten Commandments belong inside, from a Christian perspective, in the Christian church. Now, thou shalt not kill, yes. Thou shalt not have no other God, yes. But to push my God on someone else in the public square, in the school system, albeit I get it that state legislature, city council, at all levels, they pray. And I'm going to say this in my low voice. And when they pray, I often wonder what God they're praying to, because the outcome of their legislation is always counter to the God that I know. So the Ten Commandments, answer your question, Ten Commandments has no space in the public school. If Johnny cannot read the Ten Commandments, it doesn't matter in Texas. You got to have certain letters and certain fonts, whatever. What's the fuss? They have no idea. The child cannot read the fifth commandment. So why am I forcing them to see the fifth commandment? So it's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Bishop, let me give you a chance. Do you feel it's appropriate for government to force the Ten Commandments into public schools?
Absolutely not. I don't feel that it is appropriate to force because one, God doesn't force Himself on us. God allows us to choose to come to Him. So forcing it, if forcing them, then why aren't we forcing them to have better test scores? Why aren't we forcing them to have certain courses? I think it's a smokescreen, if you will, to again appropriate what is going on behind the scene. Okay, so you're going to make me put the Ten Commandments up in my classroom, but yet I also have to have a, if you will, non-gendered bathroom. So what we talking about? What are we doing? So yeah, okay, I'm gonna make you read these Ten Commandments, but I'm gonna let you do X, Y, and Z at the same time. It's not, to add to what Pastor Moses says. It's not making the child smarter. It's not making them greater or better. All it is allowing them to see the Ten Commandments in the class. We all know as adults and as a child, anytime you try to force something on us that we don't want, you know what's going to happen. The Ten Commandments being in the classroom is not going to change the behavior
That's right.
in the classroom. It's not going to change what's being taught in the classroom. So, you know, that's my take on
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Another thing too is my wife is I don't know if a converted is the right word, but she's becoming more of a messianic Christian, and so she celebrates the Sabbath on Saturdays. And she's telling me that there's actually more than just Ten Commandments because according to the Torah, according to the Pharisees, I suppose there are several commandments. There's like hundreds of them, I think, something like that. I don't really follow her what she says too well, to be honest with you. But it's kind of interesting because it's. I think the main issue with pushing Christianity in public schools is you're immediately going to ask which denomination is being pushed, right? And I also feel like it almost turns the schools into competition with our churches because if a parent is going to say, "Wait a minute, I send my kid to church 1 day a week, usually on Sundays, but I send my kid to school 5 days a week," well, this almost kind of feels like we're turning uh, public schools into competition with the church. So that's um, that's something that is kind of definitely problematic. I will also say this: another problem that we did recently have in Texas was a curriculum called the Blue Bonnet curriculum. Blue Bonnet is it's difficult to Google it because Blue Bonnet is a name of a flower and it's also constantly used here in Texas a lot. But the State Board of Education pushed forward a curriculum that basically had uh, Bible infused information in there. Basically, from the Bible, had public school teachers basically start kind of teaching out of the Bible. Uh, but the reason that never was successful is because the SBOE, the State Board of Education, never actually pushed forward enough funding for that curriculum, which is why most school boards did not adopt it. But it's definitely interesting because I was talking to Louisville ISD about this at one of their city or one of their councils, and I was saying, look, I would not expect a public school teacher to know enough, or rather, know as much as a pastor. A pastor is someone who's taken their time to know the Word of God, taken their time to understand Scripture. You can't expect every single school teacher to have that same level of knowledge. And if anything, it's probably more threatening to have someone who is not potentially not prepared to preach uh, forced to preach to children, right? So that was one issue that we recently had in Texas. But I'll get off. I'll get off my. I don't want to steamroll the conversation, of course. So Stephanie, I'll pass it off to you. I think your internet connection's looking a little bit more stable. Oh, just gotta take yourself off mute if you can.
Hey Dale, may I say something about that Blue Bonnet curriculum?
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, I hope so. Listen, I go ahead.
Yeah, I want to say something about that Blue Bonnet curriculum. As you made that call, I was
Pastor
thinking,
Moses, you can go ahead.
hey, can you hear me? Yeah,
Yes, go ahead. Yep.
yeah. On that Blue Bonnet curriculum, uh, back in 21, as I was preparing to make a transition from uh, working 30 plus years with Homeland Security and enter into pastoral work full time. I had this thought for a moment that I would go back and become a public school teacher. I would do that for a little moment just to give back to the community. And one senior said to me, a high school senior, he said, Pastor Moses, if I were you, I wouldn't do that. I said, why not? He said, because the children in the classroom, they know that the teachers are just teaching from the curriculum. They're not giving us real life experience in, let's say, American government. They're only speaking from their viewpoint. I brought that example up because as I did go out and pull the curriculum to get certified as, let's say, a social studies teacher and also a history teacher, and I was looking at all the stuff that educators have to learn to sit in a class and teach. So if I'm studying to teach science or studying to teach literature, how does that relate to the working of a God that created me? I'm, I'm, I'm simply suggesting to you when you look at bubonic curriculum, and I think Oklahoma tried this, and some right wing group started this whole curriculum development. And I forget the name of the organization at this point, but the Trump administration has tried to embed that in the Department of Education. All of that is feed into this narrative of Christian nationalism. It has nothing to do with the historic intent of the role of a school. I mean, that's what this school choice narrative is all about indoctrinating and really, in my worldview, my thought is creating an environment of the have versus the have not. I want my child, as a Catholic, I would send my child to catechism. If I'm Methodist, I send my child to Baptist, or if I am Muslim, I will send my child to the mosque, and of course to the temple. If I am the Buddhist or Jewish, if you see what I'm saying, the religious realm belongs to the church and not to the school. The school is to teach our children, prepare them to become productive, regardless of their post high school thoughts in life. The religious aspect has nothing to do with the school. Absolutely nothing. Now, I will tell you this. Do I think prayer belongs in the school? Having gone to the 12th grade, I would tell you that as long as you have examinations, tests in a school, you will always have prayer in a school. I don't need anybody to tell me, oh, Patrick, you need to stand now and pray. I'm going to pray regardless. My child will pray regardless if it is authorized by the school or not. That's my responsibility as a parent. My responsibility as a parent and pastor to provide the religious curriculum and not the school. Because we'll have some really messed up if we expect the history teacher to teach our child about our faith.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. If possible, I'm going to ask everyone to try to mute yourself when you're not talking, and then unmute yourself when you want to talk. Just because I'm getting some feedback from multiple individuals, but if it's difficult to find the mute button, don't worry too much about it. But Steph, I know I was trying to get you to ask us our next topic question. Steph, you're unmuted. Can you hear us?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to ask this question. First of all, I would like to say I knew this was going to be an interesting segment because I got two powerhouse ministers on here, and I know that y'all going to tell the people the truth about what's going on and how to go through this. So my question is for both of you, and either one of y'all can answer it. Is how should the church respond to spiritual and socially when the world is facing war and instability?
The bishop is going to permit me to go first again. Bishop. Hey, I thought we were going to become emerging friends. We will, regardless. Hey, listen. So I believe I should say that the church has a responsibility. Now I will tell you, and I apologize to anyone who, one, part of the church or not part of the church. Do forgive us for our sins of the past as we chase prosperity gospel, building great cathedrals, and ignore the community. So do forgive, accept my apology on behalf of the church, recognizing that there's no such thing as a monolithic church. And my view of the church is beyond the contours or the four walls, but it's the broader community. It's impacting people in all areas of life. I believe that the church has a fiduciary obligation, a redemptive obligation to speak truth to power, to be able to tell people beyond the pulpit, beyond the pews, what is really going on. From where I'm from, and I'm from the Black Baptist Church tradition, oftentimes members of the congregation look to the pastor to be able to tell them what is not only in the good book, the good news, the Bible, but also the late pastor Gardner Calvin Taylor says that every pastor, every minister in his book called "We Have This Ministry" ought to have the Bible in one hand and the newspaper in the other, to be able to speak truth to power about what's going on, but not only suggesting to us what is going on, economically, what's going on politically, Wall Street, what's going on at the U.S. Capitol, State Capitol, City Hall, County Commission, what's going on, but also how do we respond? How do we, with all this oppression going on, how do I now fight back? What do I need to do to ensure that not just my little clique, but all the people in the body politic can be able to move forward? So I think it's the responsibility of the church.
Absolutely, absolutely. Bishop, I'll ask you too. What do you think the church should do in this situation with everything that is going on, and also with all the instability that's going on?
I think that the church should do one what it was designed to do, and it should do, and we should continue doing what we have been doing. I so agree with Pastor Moses, with the Bible in one hand, the newspaper in the other. But I also believe that the missing piece to that is we need a Bible, a newspaper, and the couch. There's nothing wrong with having therapy. There's nothing wrong. The church should be the center hub of its community. And what we've been preaching with the same vigor, with the same vitality, with the same. I'm not a dope dealer. I'm a hope dealer. I'm pushing hope because I need you to hold out hope. Watch this. Faith without works is dead. I was a soldier in the military, and when you had faulty equipment, you had to go to the place where you could exchange it, and it was called what you would do is you would DX it, is what they called it, and DX stands for direct exchange. And so what the church need, we need to have a direct exchange with those in our community so that we can give them what they are exactly looking for. But there has to be dialogue and not monologue. There has to be an open door. Watch this. If you went to the hospital at midnight and found the doors locked, you would be like, what is going on here? But unfortunately, with the climate and the state of the world, I can't leave my church unlocked.
Right.
Cause when I come back, there ain't gonna be no organ, there ain't gonna be no drums, there ain't gonna be no seats, no nothing. And so what I'm saying to that is what we should be doing as the church and as the body of Christ is that we should be engaging those that are holding on. We got to encourage them to keep holding on. Those that are ready to let go, we've got to encourage them to tighten their grip. And those that are they feel pushed and pressed and oppressed, we've got to give them a relevant gospel, not that they can read and see, but one that they can touch and feel. And we've got to convey that to them. And the only way we can do that is to stay on point and stay on task with what's current in the education system, with what's current in the news. I know a lot of people don't like watching the news because they say it's just doom and gloom and it's so much negativity. But uh, if you don't watch the news, you're gonna be lost at the same time because you're gonna go out the door and then you're gonna be wondering, well, what's going on out here? Well, what's this all about? Well, what's that all about? It's the context that we put it in, oftentimes that shapes how it's perceived and that it's received. I say this often. Um, Everybody has we all have a pet peeve, or we all have an addiction, or we all have an issue that we subscribe to privately. We are a public success, but we are private failures. What I mean by that, there are some churches that publicly they appear to be having it going on and they appear to be engaged in their community, but privately, those people of that community will tell you the church doesn't get involved. And that's something that we have to go back to, for the churches that are doing it. They're not, listen, they're not bragging about it because we just do what we do. Jesus didn't brag about what he did. He just did it and he kept moving. This is how we keep the people encouraged and engaged. We're not trying to make it a show. We're not doing we don't have to announce to everybody that we're doing a drive or a giveaway. We just start doing it and then people will come and people will be able to see, hey, listen, they're active and they're involved. And the reason why I say that is because people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Thank you for that. Tell you what, I'm gonna add on to the question, to the question of being like, what should the church do in these turbulent times? Uh, I, this is an interesting one because I honestly don't really know the answer to this question myself, and that is whether or not it is prudent to the church or wise to have for the churches to get involved politically, particularly having people who are running for office show up and talk within their church. And the reason for that is this: back in the day, well, not back in the day, a couple years ago, uh, in theory, a church can lose its tax exempt status if it gets too involved politically, such as I believe endorsing a candidate running for office, for example. Those rules seem to be changing, and I think this is a complicated question to answer and even difficult for me to answer because, to be honest with you, when I ran for office, my pastor did allow me to actually introduce myself to the church on the microphone. We actually got a little bit of pushback from that, and to be honest with you, well, yeah, the IRS basically is usually supposed to say that that kind of stuff's not allowed. To be honest with you, here in Texas, I see it happen all the time. All the time, I see churches getting heavily involved into politics. So I don't know. Like, is it a good thing or a bad thing, or is it more of a risky thing, perhaps even for churches to get involved politically, such as having endorsing candidates and/or giving candidates who are running for office the opportunity to speak to their congregation?
Hey Dale, I want to, if you do not mind, I just saw a comment that popped up, and that comment goes along with your thought. And the question or the statement is, I like it when I see the church educate on history and current events and encourage the congregation to register and to vote early. I would tell you, I said this earlier, that I am Baptist. And I also told you I come from the Black Baptist tradition. Now, if you know anything about church history, uh, and that is Baptist church history, and that the Baptist church movement is a movement that focuses on religious freedom and this notion of liberation. But then, more importantly, the Black church tradition, as we know, was to stand up against all acts of oppression. Now, those same people who want you to read the Ten Commandments in the classroom were the same people who were part of this, and I'm talking now about the segregationists in America, were the same folk who on my mama, who gave when she gave birth to me, could not vote. I was born in 1964, not long ago. Now my granddaughter will tell you that's ancient, but it's not that many years ago. Some 62 years ago, my mother could not vote. My mother was 34 years old. So she was raised in the Jim Crow South. That same group of people who pushed forward this Southern strategy that black folk ought to say, in the words of James Morris Lawson, on the plantation capitalism. Working as sharecroppers. That same group of people who pushed the lie, and we bought it. That the church could not get involved in politics. You would not find that anywhere in the tax code. But when you don't know, you listen to what the oppressor tells you. I always said, I believe this. I don't know who I stole this thought from, but the one who tells the story controls the narrative. So if I believe that if I am to endorse or if I am to tell someone the importance of voting, then I'm gonna lose my tax exempt status. You common sense should have told folk when you saw Trump's first vice president Pence going to First Baptist Dallas and other places that was a big lie. But we bought that. So here's the deal. I think especially the black church tradition, as we fight voter suppression with other marginalized communities. And I have been arguing this, and I'm continuing to argue this, and getting ready to do an education clinic. Every black church ought to have two things. One, ought to have a cadre of volunteer deputy registers to register everybody in that church. When you join the church where I serve, we not only give you a membership card, we also ensure that you have a voter registration card. We also make sure you know who's on the ballot and what is the ballot about. We give you every information that you need. So we have what's called a voting action plan. When we register you, then we educate you. But then when it's time to vote, we mobilize you. Yes, we still practice souls to the polls. We take everybody to the polls to vote because it does not matter what justice that you're focusing on that's important to you. It all starts with who has access to the ballot box. If you have access to the ballot box, then you can make a difference. So when we hear people complain about the church can't do anything, I would tell you when I don't know, I can mess up. But when I know better, I do better. It's our responsibility to educate our folks. It's our responsibility to mobilize our folks. And yes, the church has a responsibility in justice. Throughout the Christian text, I see nothing but justice. And voting is justice. Regardless of what right you want, you better go out and vote. And the church better get involved politically. Because the church is indeed a political institution as well.
Okay. Good answer. I'll also say just put this in here real quick. I see a comment on Facebook saying, Jasmine Crockett came to my church and introduced herself and told the congregation to vote. She did not say to vote for her, but she did say to vote. Bishop, I'll pass it off to you. What are your thoughts on how far should the church go when it comes to getting involved into politics? And at what point do you think, what are your thoughts on the tax exemption status and things like that?
We are so, oftentimes, we are so money driven that we lose sight of what's important and what's imperative. The government, I live here in North Carolina. The government punished, watch this, they punished North Carolina A&T University They punish them for having too many students. And how did they punish him? By taking away funding. They punished them because they had too many out of state applicants. They were punished for that by having funding being taken away from them. What I'm saying to that is, in the face of what is going to be taken away, in the face of fear, we cannot become cowardly and then back off of what we should be doing or what our responsibility is. Most of our lives, we've done it with pieces and patches and parts. Most of our lives, that's how we've done it. I know some way and I know somehow we're going to make it. That's been our cry. That's been our voice, but that's also been our activity. Because watch this, to lend to what Dr. Moses says, the one that's telling the story has the narrative. Right. So the one that's giving the funding has the key or has the control, or so they think. But here is what it is. Everything that we have, when I say we, I'm talking about the four of us, I'm talking about everybody as a person. I just want you to hear me. Everything that we have, we've been given. We've been given. I bought this house myself. Who gave you the loan? I worked this job. Who gave you the job? I went to the dealership and bought this car myself. The salesman had to give you the opportunity to do. So everything that we've been given, everything that we have, we've been given. And so watch this. If now you're saying, I'm going to stop giving you if you don't do this. I don't know if you guys remember the movie Hotel Room, where they had the two tribes fighting against each other. Well, what the truth behind the matter was watch this. The same U.S. government that was supplying the Watusis was the same government that was supplying their enemy. So they were supplying the enemy and they were supplying the ally and threatening to take away what they were supplying. Because if I get involved, I this is what it should be. The established. He grew up, Dr. Moses grew up Baptist, I grew up AME. So we grew up in denominations that were established and set firm. And as far as I see it, we ain't never really had much to work with, no how, but we worked with what we had. So threatening to take what we have, if you think that's going to make us shut down and stop operating, then we were never operating the way we should have in the beginning. So my point to that is, yes, we should be involved politically, but we don't necessarily have to be involved in politics. That's what Jasmine Crockett was saying. Get out and vote. Yeah, she knows that in the church setting, she can't tell you to vote for her. But the most important thing is that you vote. And when we don't vote, that is the problem. It's kind of like the Olympics. You know, the Olympics come every 4 years. It come with the pageantry and so forth and so on. It's kind of, where are these politicians in the non-primary years? Where are they in the non-midterm years? They're nowhere to be found. If in to us, I'm going to say, quote unquote, in the black church, if our vote was not so important, then why did Mike Pence go to First Baptist? Why are they coming to get our vote if it's not that important? You see, you want to persuade us to vote a certain way, and if we don't vote that way, then you want to take, or if we cross this line, you want to take. But you're crossing the line in what you're saying. Why you want to take it? You're crossing the line. So to it all, yes, we should be involved politically. We should be involved in information, making sure people know where to vote, making sure they know where their precincts are, making sure that they know souls to the polls, like what church is doing it. Like, hey, my church is not doing souls to the polls. We're not taking people to the polls. But my friend, Dr. Moses, his church is taking people to the polls. Hey, Dr. Moses, do you mind? We're not involved in it in this matter, but do you mind if we send some folk over there that they can ride with you? See, we're afraid that people are going to steal members. We're afraid that people are going to, and it's all behind money, which is what we're really talking about. It's behind funding. We can't get involved in certain things as a quote unquote nonprofit church because of funding, the things that it may cause with funding. That's what I was saying at the top. They took funding away from North Carolina A&T. This is how people penalize you. They take away what they feel that you need from them. But we've got to be self-sufficient, and we've got to understand that we are self-sufficient. We don't have to watch cars and kill chickens. If we would just give our tithe and give our offering, the church could manage itself. We wouldn't have to do some of the other things that we do. So yes, the church should get involved politically, but we don't have to get involved in politics to be involved politically.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's a very good answer. I could see that, Stephanie. You take yourself off mute if you want, Steph. I could see that you were very happy to hear a lot of these things. And I'm also looking at the time as well. Steph, do you want to take yourself off mute and share some thoughts?
I am so overjoyed.
I'm sorry, say
I'm,
again. I'm also hearing some
I
background music
am
stuff, but
so overjoyed to hear what both of y'all had to say. This is something that is needed. I'm in Starbucks, y'all. Sorry. This is this is very good, and I appreciate y'all going in deep. But you know what? I'm gonna have to bring y'all back on here when I'm actually where I'm supposed to be at, so we can go deeper. And you know what, Pastor Moses, I'm a Baptist. You know, I'm a PK. So I grew up in an era where civil rights movement, we was out there. It was boots on the ground. It wasn't no such thing as we had a candidate coming to our church. Yes, they did come to our church, but I guarantee you, with all those leaders that we had in our Baptist church, we was already in sync, and we went to go march. We went to go knock on doors. We was politically involved. Now we need to get back to the root. And that's why I believe that a lot of these pastors quit looking at your pocketbook,
Yeah,
start looking at these souls. Because if we get the wrong people in off of which we have, we're going to lose our souls. And who's going to be responsible for those souls? You, the shepherd. So the shepherds got to do what they're supposed to do, is to guide your flock. So I definitely appreciate y'all coming here. See, y'all just made my heart happy because we're talking about things that people need to hear, and folks need to be able to trust our leaders, our church, our leaders. Because I'm gonna guarantee you, the Southern Baptist folks, oh, they all in there, and they telling their people all kind of things and putting our black churches down, which is wrong. And it's time for us to stand up and hold the line. Because at the end of the day, those millions of people that they said folks that did not go out to go vote, we need to be talking about this here all the way to November 3rd and making sure that they understand. They're going to get tired of hearing y'all. Remember, Bishop, I was telling you how my father would sit up there and make me his sermon. I used to hate that. We might have to go. You know what I'm talking about. So we might have to go to that and put that voting on in the sermon. You
that's
know,
right.
Jesus Jesus had his disciples doing the same thing. Go to the people, bring them. We're supposed to follow the law of the land. They didn't say that we couldn't go out there and go knock on them doors because Peter and them was knocking on doors. So I really do appreciate y'all coming on here. Y'all have really just made my night. We're gonna definitely have to bring y'all back on here. Um, yeah, we. You know what? I'm gonna have to have a round table. Yeah, you might as well get ready. Oh Lord, somebody's child. My phone going off, y'all. We're gonna definitely have to bring y'all back on here to where we can have some more ministers on here, because I want to do a round table and have you on here to where y'all can talk to the people, because the folks need to hear from the leaders. Because right now, a lot of folks are thinking that the church is quiet, and I know y'all ain't quiet. Y'all be having them conversations. I know Y'all be having no conversation, but I want y'all to have the conversation on Let's Talk About It stuff so we can talk about this stuff and let the people understand. You got to go vote because this is it. If you don't get yourself out there, and especially if you register to vote, get out there and go vote. Yes, back in the day, I can say that yes, we did have candidates coming to our church and stuff and put their little statements out there, they stump speech out there. But you know what? They weren't threatened by the government.
That's right.
Now the churches are threatened by the government. Certain churches are threatened by the government because they're afraid to have they 501c kicked out. Even if you are a government official, work in the government, you can't even socialize with certain things because of you afraid to have your 501c taken away from you. So it's a lot of things that we can work around. I want to see our churches involved. It's time for us to get our Bibles up in the air and boots on the ground. Sister, you got to put your shoes on and let's go. It's time for us to do our power walk and get these folks out here to go vote because number one, I love me some Jasmine. There is no reason why she shouldn't have got the votes that she did. You know, we gonna back Tallarico, but at the end of the day, we got to do better because we're in a point where we could easily lose the Senate race because people are mad because Jasmine didn't get it. So we need our pastors to get out there and talk to these people and bring them back into the fold because it's bigger. It's bigger than this. It's bigger than what you think it is. We got to take a stand. But I'm gonna let y'all close it out. I appreciate everyone for tuning in to Let's Talk About Stuff. Please make sure if you're on here, like, share, and subscribe because you know what? We're gonna bring them all back, and I'm adding some more ministers to go preach to y'all to enlighten y'all on what's really going on. Because at this point, we can't take no chances. We cannot take any more chances. So, Dale, you can have them to close on out. I know I got a lot of background noises around here.
All right. All right. Thank you for that, Steph. Awesome. Awesome. Absolutely. So, Dr. Dr. Patrick Moses, do you want to take just a couple minutes to kind of give some closing remarks?
Yeah, well, I haven't learned to tell time yet. My great Bishop, thank you so much. And you put me to shame by reminding me that you are AME. And so I really appreciate that. AME, those who don't know, is the first organized denomination for previously enslaved and free people, free African Americans in the United States. So thank you so much, Bishop, for being this conversation partner with me tonight. And then to say that you are there in North Carolina really brought joy to me. I was listening a few days ago to a podcast, and your former governor running for senator talked about North Carolina A&T. And he reminded me of something that all of us are about. And that is this notion of vote. It is a notion of resisting the power of the oppressor. So North Carolina tried this little trick to take away those voting machines from the students at North Carolina A&T. But what did the students do? They rose up, they organized themselves, and they went to the next place to vote. Voting matter. I open by saying there in Revelation, in those parentheses, but we are rich. When I think of all the things, all the persecution, all the poverty, all of the disenfranchisement, all of the apathy, all of the trauma that we have experienced. And as my commissioner in waiting said, yeah, we're devastated about Jasmine, but it's bigger than Jasmine. It's about democracy. Martin Luther King, right? The arc of the universe is long, but it leans toward justice. And it will continue to lean toward justice as long as we come out of our churches, out of our great cathedrals, and become like Jesus, and that is community minded people. It's important for us to vote. It's important, Stephanie, for us to get you in that position. It's important for across this country that we put people in office who are not concerned with getting big names for themselves, but allowing our girls and our boys to have a prosperous future. Regardless, I'm closing, regardless if they're Christian or not. We're all created in the image of God. And so it's our responsibility to educate our community. It's our responsibility to mobilize our people and get them to the polls to ensure that we all can enjoy a prosperous life. I'm Baptist. Let me shut up. My granddaughter tell me I close 3 times, so I'm gonna close right here. Thank you so much, Stephanie. Though you called me all centered last night to get involved, but you caught me at a good time because I was preparing a let's talk politics issue with some Baptist pastors in a couple of weeks. So thank you so much. God bless all of you.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Thank you for that so much. Bishop, we're now going to pass to you for some closing remarks.
Thank you, Commissioner in Waiting, Draper. Thank you so much for having me, Brother Dale. Thank you. Thank you so much for moderating and being in place and being in position.
Well, just real quick, not to interrupt, but do you want to turn your camera on? I think you might have accidentally clicked the wrong button.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, there we go. I'm sorry.
All
Yes.
good.
Oh, oh, wow. Yes. I want to say thank you for the opportunity to be here and to be a part of the platform. Dr. Moses, I am grateful that we've had the opportunity to talk and to converse across this platform. I'm praying for you and your congregation, and I'm praying that God gives you everything that you need to be successful there where you are. And I would like to say to the body of Christ, to the believers, that we are not hopeless. We are not without hope. We are not without faith. We are not without what we need. I learned during my time in the military that if it was something that benefited the Army, they would tell me about it up front right away. But if it was something that benefited me, then I had to do a little work and had to do a little research and had to dig a little deeper. And I just want to encourage us all when it comes to politics and voting. They're going to tell us whoever it is that we're supporting, backing, whatever it is. They're going to tell us, watch this, what benefits them if they get to the office. And they're going to tell us how our vote would benefit them. But if we really want to know the impact and the benefit our vote is going to have, then that's something we're going to have to research out ourselves. We're going to have to research out our candidates, research out their agendas, research what it is that they're saying that they're going to do when they get in office. And here's what we have to do. We have to hold them accountable. I don't think we hold our government leaders accountable. We vote for them, we elect them, we put them in office, and then we just complain about what's happening. And we don't continue to push forward and to press them and hold them accountable. No, this is what you said you were going to do when you got in office. This is what you said you were. And so we have to hold them accountable. And so again, y'all, I'm grateful. I am grateful to have been a part of this platform. To you, Commissioner in Waiting Draper, to you, Brother Dale, to you, Dr. Moses. I'm praying in your endeavor that you win and that you do get to become the sheriff of Tarrant County. I'm praying for that. God bless you. Thank you guys so much, and I just appreciate you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. All right. With that said, and I want to thank you both too for being here as well. I'm actually going to read another comment from our Facebook feed right now. Eugene says, "You could. Thank you, ministers. Thank you for your time. You could have been anywhere else, but you chose to enlighten us with your presence." And so that's something I definitely wanted to pass on. I think Stephanie has some background noise, so I'm going to go ahead and close this out. Again, thank you to our guests for showing up. Thank you to our audience for tuning in. And also, if you're in the audience right now on YouTube, please click our YouTube channel. Please click that subscribe button. Please click that like button. it helps us out in the algorithm to get our messages out there. And we hope we can have you both back again sometime. Again, this is a podcast called Let's Talk About It, Steph. And we have this podcast every single Wednesday at 7 p.m. All right, with that said, y'all have a good night now. And we'll see you all again next week.